is all about getting the money, right? And the biggest problem that startups have, that founders have, is they don't ask for enough money. It sounds crazy, but it's true, because what happens is they sit there and say, well, I did the math and I realized I need like $10,000. And I'm like, you don't need $10,000. And they said, why? And I said, because ideally you're trying to pay yourself something along the way. That 10,000 isn't going to last you more than 2 months, 3 months, maybe. And who wants to give you 10 grand when they're trying to figure out how you're going to make that money back, right? Because there is a value ratio that makes sense. So, like when I work for the startups who are cash flow positive and trying to grow to that next level, and they're also doing that because they'll say, "Oh, I need $1 million." I'm like, "No, you need 5 to 10." And they said, "Why do I need 5 to 10?" And I said, "Because as soon as you get that million, right, you're going to go out, you're going to hire developers or whatever it is. You're going to do this and this, and that money is going to be gone in 6 months." I said, and then you're going to have to get back on the road and start trying to find money again. And you don't want to do that. And your company doesn't need you to do that. So it's planning ahead and thinking about it. But if you're going to make a big ask of someone for 5 million, 10 million, or even if you're small enough and need 500,000, they want to know you know what you're doing. They want to see that you've got logic in your company, that your business model makes sense, that if they give you the money, what are you going to do with it? And it's not just, well, I'm going to hire this guy and this guy and this guy. It's, X amount goes to this, X amount goes to that. We're going to do this type of thing and that. And there has to be details, there has to be thought out, or no one wants to take you seriously. And that's a big part of it. And how you tell that story, how you make that story work for you is the biggest issue. Most people don't know how to tell a story, don't know where they're going, don't know how to get any point across, and they're just all over the place. It's like the only point of your story is to get money. Everything else is kind of secondary, right? It's like, here's what I do, here's how other people do it, here's why we think we can do it better, and here's what we need to do it. That's really what you want to get across. 1, 2, 3. Everything else should be like Q&A almost, because no one cares about all the other stuff. Like, yeah, it's maybe you went here, maybe you did this. That's all nice and good, but that doesn't tell anybody what you're doing and why. And that's kind of what happens. But if you're a small business, it's the biggest thing for you to do is to get that first customer. Because once you have that first customer, you will get a second one. And once you have two, you'll start having some more, and you'll be able to start rolling along a little better and get some idea how you can start hiring people, even if it's temporarily, or outsource them or whatever you want to do. And then it just kind of grows in its own way. And it may plateau too. A lot of times people get frustrated because they're like, well, I'm not making any more money. It's like, it's not about making more money every day. It's about growing your business in a way that makes sense for you and for your future. And if you grow too fast, you're not going to have the mechanisms in place to support that structure. Obviously, they don't want to grow too slow, but you reach a point where you're getting enough inbound revenue and everything kind of makes sense, and you're good, and you can actually now sit here and say, okay, now that we got this, what can we do to get bigger? How can we get bigger customers? Sometimes I help people just by changing the wording in their website or their social media. It makes a big difference when someone thinks you're one person or 3 people versus thinking, oh, maybe they're 10 to 20 people. And it makes a big difference in who those customers are, because they come to you and they want to be handheld and they want to know you love them and all that fun stuff. But they also need to think you're big enough to accommodate them. And that's a big aspect of growing your business.
So if you're a small company, maybe you're like a one person who has a great skill and you're offering that up and you want to get the word out there. Should you make all of the wording and all on your website and all of your marketing seem as though you are several people?
Like, you don't want to lie and say we have a team of 20 when it's just you, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there's certain words that people use, and they don't think about it unconsciously as they're using it in their text, and it basically sounds and makes it feel like it's just you, right? So it's just certain terms and staying away from things so you can kind of push stuff up and say, no, we, as the company, we work with people in this and this and this. We're not saying I, we're saying we. I mean, even when I started out, I had people I worked with who did things I didn't do, right? I'm not an
Mm,
SEO person, but I have friends who are SEO people. I'm not an ad person, but I have friends who are big Facebook ad people, big LinkedIn ad people. So if I needed that or the customer asked me for it, I say, great, I have someone you can work with here, you. And so it is we, right? But people don't think of it that way because they're just like, oh, it's still just me. It's like, no, it is all of us, and we're doing things. And so it becomes a little bit of a lexicon kind of dictionary type thing where you're like, how do we make this sound like we understand people, right? Because
mm.
it's not so much also about saying it's me or you. It's also about the customer who comes to our website or to our social media post and says, do they understand me as a big customer? Do they get what I need? Do they understand it? And secondarily, they'll then try and find out more about you. So sometimes it is about just using the right terms so that they know you get who they are. If you ever look at a SaaS offering, right, the SaaS companies tend to have three offerings and then call us, right? Free, some kind of free or freemium, a lower thing, and some middle or high thing, and then always call us, right? Because they know there are people who are smaller who don't need all the bigger stuff. There are people who are bigger and need things, and there are people who are huge, and none of this matters because they're going to say, we want to do this, this, and this. How much is it, right? And that's the same thing for your business. You have to have that from the start so that people know you understand the different levels in business.
Excellent. That's great advice. So I know that when you're forming your business, it's important to understand your competition. So a lot of people understand like researching your competition, but they don't may not understand the depth of competitive intelligence. And I'd love for you to break that down today.
Okay, so this is this is a little harder to explain, I think, sometimes when you're small, right? Because
Mhm.
when you're first starting out, everybody's a customer, right? And everybody's a competitor, right? Because anything is a competitor. You're just like, I need to make money. I don't care. I'll do anything. And then eventually you have that first customer and you're like, okay, now I kind of get an idea why I don't want to do certain things or why I do want to do certain things. Or maybe who you want to work for or you don't want to work for, right? Like you came from a military background, so most likely you're okay if you were working with a government entity, right? But
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who are afraid to talk to governments and work with governments, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I am over my career, I have pitched people at NATO. I've worked at nuclear sites. I've been in different army sites, all kinds of places. So like, but I don't have your background, so I have to kind of work with them in the best way I can at a business level while maintaining the fact that, okay, they have certain, reasons to do things. So competitive intelligence comes in even when you're trying to pitch people, right? Like if I wanted to go, let's say I wanted to go to my local bank who does horrible swag, and I'm a swag dealer, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to my local bank and say, hey, you guys make some of the worst swag. I know you get it from corporate, but I know you have some local money and you could do stuff local in the community. And I'm a local swag person, and so you want to kind of understand how that works. And some people, when they start out, they don't even know what they don't know, right?
Mhm.
So like I know, and because we were both in corporate, there's a whole thing, top down, swag comes from corporate somewhere, blah 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 blah, right? But the average person just walks into some place and says, "Hey, why don't you buy this?" And that doesn't work, right? Because you don't understand the process, you don't understand the mechanisms, you don't know about it. So when you're a startup, competitive intelligence is more about the how to and the who to, rather than purely the competitor. Um, when you get a little bigger and you start having more customers, you start finding out who your competitors are because they start coming after you. They'll start, asking who you are. They'll meet you at networking events, and you'll start being followed, so to speak.
Oh,
And then you want to basically start thinking about it and say, okay, well, these guys, are they afraid of me? Do they want to work with me? What can we do with them? Should we do something with them? And you want to basically figure out what that best direction is. sorry, it's not always obvious, but the information you get from them is helpful. Sometimes they're going to be like, "Oh, we work with Disney, so you shouldn't waste your time talking to Disney." It's like, okay, well, that's good to know, because if you wanted to sell into Disney, you might want to partner with them and sell into Disney. But at the same time, they may decide, we don't want to do that. And when you get a little bigger, you start talking about pricing as competitive, right? Am I pricing this too low, too high, right? Is there value? Is there no value? Is the competitor doing it? And how are they doing it? Who are they doing it for? And you keep going with that. And competitive intelligence doesn't usually, you don't usually hire a CI person initially. Usually your product marketer becomes your CI person.